Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you my friends, and I'm going to do it as claptrap, if that's what you want. Would you like me to do that? All right, so hello, travelers. I'd like to introduce you to my friends, Ric Neil and Mark Subotnick. These guys are awesome. I'm going to head into the back. I might have to leave in a little bit, but I can't wait to see some of this. This is great. These guys are
right.
All right.
Well, thank you all for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
I'm going to kick it off.
Here we go, slide number 2. We have 3 slides, which we carefully crafted with
Look at that. That's us now.
I'm Ric Neil. This is my friend, good friend, Mark Subotnick. We have been lucky to be in the industry since the 90s. You can't hear?
No.
How's that? A little better?
There you go.
How's my game? I've been lucky to be in the industry since the 90s, same as you.
Same as me.
But
yeah,
it was a different
1993.
industry back then where you were mocked if you joined the industry. I remember my mom saying, "What are you doing? Throwing away a perfectly good job to go work with those guys." I got lucky enough to work on Madden football. You worked at SEGA in the early days.
Yeah, 1993 is when I started.
And throughout the years, we got to work together at Xbox together. That's where we became good friends. We both live in Portland. We found the opportunity. Thank you, Hans, for setting this up for us to talk. And we figured we didn't prepare anything except this one slide. And then we would just talk about
We've got a lot of great
from the old
stories.
days. I've got an old story that you might appreciate. Mark has a bunch more. But that's our whole intro. Did I do all right? Well, that's the end.
We'll go back to that last slide.
No, there should be. Oh, there it is. We got to live through the console wars before it was called the console wars. It was just called ship a game on something. If you guys didn't know this, when EA first started making SEGA cartridges, we backwards engineered the development kit so we could manufacture cartridges without a license from SEGA, and we put them on the shelf and we sold them with no license from SEGA. That's how EA started back in the day, because it was pretty, yeah. So I got to work on Madden football. One of the favorite stories I like to tell is in 1996, we could finally put a 3D ball in 3D space. Before that, it was all 2D. Everything in Madden was 2D. But being able to have a 3D plane where we defined where that was and lit it with garrote shading, and we were so proud of having a 3D ball, but all the animations still needed to be 2D. So the animations had no relevance knowing where 3D space was. They were just, we call it blitted on the screen wherever. And the testers would write up bugs saying to the programmer, "I got a first down, but Madden didn't give me the first down." And that's a bug. And the programmer said, "That's impossible because we finally know 3D space and the ball did not cross the plane." So late one night was Jason and Randall arguing about it, and Jason, the testers, as Mark can attest to, testers own the world. We had to do what they said to make the game fun. So Randall, in a fit of rage with Jason, says, "Hold on," and goes, "Bap, bap, 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 bap," and a giant yellow line goes across the field to show that the ball did not hit the yellow line, so therefore it was not a bug, and I'm not going to work on this code anymore. And just at that time, I said, "What are you guys doing over there?" He goes, "Well, Jason doesn't believe me, but look, there's a yellow." I'm like, "No, what's the yellow line?" He goes, "Oh, it shows where the first down marker is." I'm like, "Awesome, leave it in." And then 4 years later, the yellow line was on football on TV. But that was how we did. It was because of testers being a pain in the ass that made us really put the yellow line in Madden. And it's little things like that teams were so small. We were 12, 14 people making Madden 97, 98, with some external development teams for sure. But it was a small team of crazy geeks, basically, right? Would you say the same?
Yeah, I mean, at SEGA we had 2 different shifts. So you'd start at the day shift was 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and you get paid $9 an hour. So you were a temp tester. You worked for, not technically for SEGA, it was for a volunteer company, or for a company that took temporary employees, handled all the benefits and management of you. And then there was a shift from 3 p.m. till 11. And I worked on that late shift. We called it the night shift. There were hundreds of us that would come in as temp testers, and very few of us that actually made it to the point where we would be what they call the permanent tester, where you were actually hired on to SEGA. When we first started, it was before they actually made new laws that actually allowed you to be treated like a full-time employee and paid $9 an hour. So we were kind of taking advantage of it first, and then the new law passed. That resulted in a lot of testers actually losing their job. I was one of the lucky ones that got to stick on. Yeah, and we did have a lot more power than we realized. Like we were $9 an hour. We were the ones, but we were the last person to say whether a game could go out the door or not. We were one that ensured whether the game was quality enough for the end consumer, for the player, to actually put their hands on it. That's still the same to this day. I have a game that's going out in 10 days for the new company I work at, and the testers are the one that decides if that's ready to go out. They're the one that decides if we're going to crack it open and fix something because we find a bug that we think is worth cracking it open and fixing it for. One of the crazy stories I have is there was a game called Batman and Robin Animated Genesis. It was tied to the series, the animated series, so it had a lot of hype around it. And we had a really good development team working on it, tremendous amount of pressure to get it out on a given date. And the executive producer of that also happened to be married to one of the more powerful women in the industry who ran Crystal Dynamics at that time. And every morning I would be the tester that had to get up, and we were working round the clock. We actually got hotel rooms at the Motel 6 up from Redwood Shores just so the testers could go sleep for a few hours before they came back and tested the next build. And every morning first thing I would do is look at the bug report. No, it's not ready to ship. Get on the phone, call Bert. His wife would often answer, do I want to put him on the phone? Nope, not time to put him on the phone yet. And she would just hang up on me. And that was the way the day started until we were finally ready to get it out the door. But yeah, testers working round the clock. You'd find them passed out at their desk. But it's an unsung hero. Like we're always the last one to get any praise, beg to get any credit. But a really, really, really critical part of getting the game.
When you did your job, everyone hated you.
Yes.
If you found a bug,
you stopped the game from going out.
Stop finding bugs.
Yeah.
Those are the days.
Still can't get the tester out of me. I still do it to games that I'm supposed to be helping ship. No. All right, one more story, Matt.
I had an interesting. I got to start as an assistant producer and made my way to producer of Madden, mostly because in those days, the intro and the video and having Madden and Summerall and the talking and all that stuff was a big deal feature for the game, right? The action game people, we called them, they were off making the actual game fun, but we had this big multimedia, it was called back then, budget to build things and everything. So because I knew hardware better than anyone else, they just shoved me at coach and said, you go get all the video and you get it all compressed and you make all that happen while we work on the game over here. You go do all that stuff. I had come from what was called the media lab at Electronic Arts, the team that was actually making the movies. So I became the guy that would always go to the studio and get coach and get the videos and everything. The second year I was on Madden was the first time Madden was going to be at the Madden Bowl, and that was our big PR moment ever. And it was mostly just kids before 97. So Madden 97 was a big deal. We got a sponsor to actually give a prize, which was a round trip ticket around the world from American Airlines, and that was a big, so we put press out, come to the Madden Bowl and check it out. Before that, it was kind of an amateur-y thing that we did in college. So Madden was going to show up. They put me out on the floor to go greet coach, and he hates big crowds, just as a side. He hates big crowds and things like that. And every freaking news agency that was at the Super Bowl decided to come to Madden Bowl that year. So the front room was just packed with all these TV cameras, and everybody's waiting for Madden to come. And he's late, of course, right? And we had the little earpiece in, and my marketing guy goes, hey, coach is out there, go bring him in. Well, they sent me to be because he walked in, and he's like, what are these people doing? Get me out of here, right? And then I was at the other side of the room, and he's looking for me to guide him out there, and he yells, "Hey, Rick!" And the whole crowd just kind of looks at like, who's Rick? Get me out of here. We took him out in the back, and he did his interviews for Rolling Stone and whatnot, but it was that moment of the room just got silent when he goes, "Hey, Rick." What, coach? Come on, let's go. That was fun. He was an amazing man to work with. Every play of every game, he knew how it worked. And that's not a Denver play. That's a Pittsburgh play. You're not supposed to have that. He was that needling about it. And still to this day, his sons look at all those plays, and that's what made the game great. So
That reminds me of so there was this. There was a video game called Sonic and Knuckles. It was a popular Genesis game. It had this new lock-on technology that we were very excited about for the Genesis. But we had a contest that we paired with MTV. And it was such a big deal that SEGA actually paid for a part of the restoration of Alcatraz. And the contest was filmed on Alcatraz. But the bizarre thing, as a tester, we were actually, a couple of us got hand chosen to go around the United States to Hard Rock cafes where the contest would be taking place, where kids would go participate in a Sonic and Knuckles contest. The winner would get handcuffed to us and then taken in a limousine.
Was that legal?
I mean, it was a really bizarre thing. And then we would go from the Hard Rock Cafe right to an airplane to Alcatraz, where they would then compete on this MTV show. And so I was one of the people that got chosen as a judge. I got to go to Atlanta and be a judge of this contest and get handcuffed to this poor kid, and his mom got in a limo with me, on a plane ride with me, back to San Francisco. And then we all took a ferry. Daisy Fuentes and Bill Bellamy were the VJs. There's probably very few people in the room who even know who those humans are. And we got to go on the ferry and hang out on Alcatraz and see parts of Alcatraz that you never can walk on the island. That's and watch awesome. The show being filmed. It was amazing. And, so you get these rare moments as testers, right. Too. I got to work the Players Party for NFL Players Association for a Super Bowl, not related to Madden. There was a Joe Montana football game, and Sega
it might
Sports.
Have also been Madden.
Yeah, it could have been Madden too. But there was a Sega Sports sponsored event, and we got to go hang out at the Super Bowl and show NFL players around and show them how to play arcade games. So really bizarre things that you never imagined as a tester that you get to do beyond just playing video games for a living, which. As a tester, you kind of do. It was as someone in the video game industry, that's one of the things that people often say is, oh, so you work in games, you play games for a living, and that's what you get to do. And usually our answer is no. It's a full-time job, and we have a lot of other things that are related to getting the games made. But when you're testing, you are actually playing games all day long, but you're playing broken versions, early versions of the game, not necessarily
fun.
There's
no fun.
And it's 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day of playing that thing over and over. And when you find something, you have to go back and verify whether it was fixed or not. So you're repeating those steps over and over again. But yeah, critical job. Games would be horrible without testers.
Right.
It would not be fun.
But it was how basically both of us started in the industry back then. You just had to be passionate enough.
Super lucky.
Yeah, and super lucky to get into things.
There was an ad in a newspaper that my roommate said, "Hey, you play a lot of video games. You should go down there and see about a job." And I was like, that's not a bad idea. Paying taxes, making income might be a good idea. And I went down and interviewed and never thought that I'd be sitting here 30 years later with a career. Very, 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 very lucky.
Right. And the people and who we got to meet and the surprises that you've had. I was sitting in my cube one day, and the PR and marketing guys, I had to ask them to please leave my team alone. We have to ship the game. Just leave us alone. We don't want your people coming to meet the Madden team, please, right? So they had to come by my cube and ask anything with the team. And Sandy comes up, he goes, "Rick, I got a big favor. I know you're really busy today, but I got someone that wants to learn how do we make these 3D models work." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, I got 2 other meetings and everything." He goes, "Well, just hold on, I'll go get him, and if you have time, you can tell him. And he comes around the corner with Muhammad Ali and his wife. And I'm like, sit down, please. And he was having speech problems then, so it was hard for him to talk. But his wife deciphered everything for him. And he was asking about polygon normals, which is, that was how we made triangles work on the PlayStation 1. He knew how to render a body and what the constraint. I'm like, how is he asking all these questions? And he wanted me to open up the game and show him physically how we actually render things in space and then put it in. What are the formulas? He was, for an hour and a half, I sat at my cube and showed him how we made the game, because we made the engine and the game at the same time. We didn't get to use Unity or an Unreal. We had to write our own rasterizer and our own memory handler and build the entire game from scratch every year, right? But that was fascinating. That would have been 97. Foes of Ali was the game we were working on. And yeah, that was an amazing one. The other one was in Madden, the players' ratings are more important than the players' wives to the players.
That's still true. Yeah.
And I'm sitting at my desk, and this guy goes, "Who rated me 64?" And I'm like, and I thought it was my buddy Jake screwing with me, because that was always the first question. And I'm like, "Jake, leave me alone." He goes, "Who's Jake?" And I look up, there's Kevin Gogan. And if you've ever known who Kevin Gogan was, his hand was bigger than my face. He was huge. And I look up and I'm like, actually, that was my mistake. You're a 94. And I opened up the spreadsheet and I'm like, I will change your speed, Kevin. Yeah. The players always wanted to come in and hang out and see what was going on.
Yeah.
You had the same thing.
Oh yeah, at SEGA we had SEGA Sports. We had, I'm a Bay Area sports fan, and I had lucky to be grown up as a diehard 49ers fan, as you saw in the photo earlier. And we would have Ronnie Lott walk through. I had a day where I got called and was told, "Hey, I need you to drop everything. You're going to take somebody around in his family." And it was Gary Plummer and his family. And I asked, who was a middle linebacker for the 49ers, and I asked him one question. Where I was like, all right, I'm going to go on a limb and ask the insider question. He kicked his family out of my office, answered the question honestly, and then brought everybody back in.
Don't repeat the question.
Yeah, I mean, we had Michael Jackson come to SEGA Test, right, which was just incredible. You're all sitting there working one day, and Michael Jackson gets walked through. Bono came and visited, and they always wanted to see what we were doing in Test.
Right.
Blew our minds. Like, we're $9 an hour. We're the nobodies.
But you're the one playing the
people
new game that no one's ever seen before, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah, I had a moment, somebody where I was setting up at E3. I was the lead tester for Panzer Dragoon. We were really excited to show that on the Sega Saturn. And get a tap on the shoulder. I need you to show this game to somebody. And in those moments where you're really focused, busy, sometimes you go, "Leave me alone, Jake," or whatever. Like, you think somebody's messing with you. It was Spielberg. And I was like, okay, I demoed it, and immediately I got tense, and my anxiety levels shoot through the roof, and I'm showing a game to Steven Spielberg. But yeah, it was, and that as a tester, who would ever have thought that those things?
It's weird to think that
right?
they think we have value or information that's important. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I've had that. We don't want to take all the time. Did you guys have any questions?
Yeah, if there's any questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just wondering, because in the late 90s, while you were working on Madden, that was like the heyday of the rivalry between Madden and
PlayStation.
And PlayStation's Game Day. And I remember it was always, Madden was referred to as the #1 rated because it was usually got the best grades, but the Game Day was the #1 selling.
Exactly.
And I was just wondering,
Why did they say that? Because they only said it was the #1 rated selling for PlayStation 1 because they couldn't make it for multiple platforms. So we outsold them all the time.
Well, it wasn't just that, but yours was always rated higher in terms of quality by reviews.
Right, they sold more on PlayStation.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if you ever, if there was ever any feelings about a rivalry while you were working on development.
Oh my God.
If
the testers would go over and try to look in the windows. And their testers would try to come over and look at our windows.
I have a crazy story.
Yeah.
So I worked at SEGA at a time where there was we'll definitely get you in
Just really quick question. What he
Sure.
How
host locations are you?
This story I'm going to tell you answers that to an interesting degree. So, Redwood Shores, where Sega was, if you were in Bernie Stoller's office, he could look through binoculars to Kelly Flock's office, who was his competitor over at Sony, and they would flip each other off through the offices. And one of the crazy assignments I ever got, I got called into Bernie's office, and he said, so I had what was called a blue PlayStation, and at Sega I was the only one who had that. It was a dev kit for the PlayStation. It was impossible to get if you weren't developing on the PlayStation. I'm not going to say how that ended up in my office, but I had the one, and there was you would have attrition out of Sega test that would move over to PlayStation. A lot of the people that started in QA or quality assurance test started at Sega. We had the first kind of test department and the database and philosophy for how you redline bugs, wrote bugs, and then people would move to EA's test department, and then eventually Sony started, and we had a lot of people leave our test department and start there. We all knew each other. We all used the same FileMaker Pro database.
Same Taco Bell.
We all ate at the same place. We shopped at the same place.
Yeah.
And so Bernie called me in. Crash Bandicoot had just gone gold, and the Crash and Sonic were heavy competitors. Those were our mascot games, and Bernie wanted to know what that game looked like, so he said, go to Kelly Flock's, who was the main competitor for Rick on Madden. Kelly ran the 989 studio. He said, go to Kelly Flock's office and go there. He knows you're coming, and go pick up a gold copy of Crash Bandicoot. And I was like, this is crazy. They're never going to give me a gold copy of the game they just mastered to a competitor.
Before it's released.
And I'm a tester. He doesn't know me from Adam. This is crazy. But the president of the company told me to go do it. So I was going to go do it. So I got in my car and I drove down to Foster City, and wasn't that far, and went into Kelly Flock's office. His admin knew I was coming. And I looked like that.
Looked like this.
Not like this, which isn't that much more professional, but that. And she said, yes, sit right down over here. He knows you're coming. And I'm as nervous as can be. Kelly calls me in the office. He says, sit right down. And sorry, my son's here. I am going to swear, because I have to quote this as exactly. He says, sit, kid, you have some fucking balls. I can't believe you came over here. There is no fucking way I'm giving you a disc. But if you ever want a job and you're sick of Bernie shit, you give me a call. Get the fuck out of my office. And those are, I guess that's what they did to testers back then.
Yes, we did. It wasn't called hazing. It was just called fucking with the tester. Yeah, absolutely.
So, because I remember you just moments ago, you were talking about working on Sega Sports. When did that whole division kind of, I don't know if they acquiesced to the competition as it were, but I started retroactively playing the old Sega Sports titles, and I go, holy crap, this is ahead of its time, given the era that it was released in. So when did, and especially for Electronic Arts, you said that they didn't have the licensing from Sega, or they did a lot of things without Sega.
Nefarious, yes.
Yeah, there was, what, Joe 94 was right when they were still going head to head. And after Joe 94, there wasn't really a good Sega football game anymore. And so Madden really took the place on Genesis. And there was a very strong partnership between EA and Sega around that, even though they competed on Sega Sports. Sega Sports Evolution, eventually they bought a company called Visual Concepts. Oh. Visual Concepts is the company that now you would know as 2K Sports.
And Visual Concepts did Madden 93, Madden 94, Madden 95.
It's super intertwined. It's a lot of the same people working on these things, moving from company to company. There was a lot of inter competition between those people because they all knew each other.
Right.
But over a period of time, Sega, as they got out of the hardware business, didn't need to spend the same amount of money in keeping a sports division. At the time when we came up in the industry, if you didn't have Madden on your system when you launched, you had to have either that 989 football game or a Joe 94.
Something you're right.
You had to have a football game, you had to have a racing game, you had to have a fighting game. They were really distinct genres that we felt like we needed when we launched a system. And so Sega invested heavily to make sure if they didn't get what they needed from an EA that they could deliver it themselves. But after the purchase of 2K Sports from Sega, that's pretty much when their sports division went away.
Go ahead, in the back.
Do you guys have any recollection of a place called Front Page Sports?
Yeah, I know. That was my competition.
Oh, yeah.
A guy named Pat Cook.
I remember having those games when I was a kid because I thought they had better, like, manager type modes.
It was totally manager mode, and
Yeah,
the simulation was better, and
Simulation was better,
it was definitely PC sim type of game back
So,
then.
like, eventually Madden took that over. I mean, obviously, they took over the kind of management /sim thing. Did you guys inherit those people at all, or, you know?
You know, we actually proposed a head-to-head competition in 1997 with Front Page Sports because we could just go build that entire, it's basically a UI. It was, and some algorithms. It wasn't that hard. We had all the data, we could do it. And marketing came along and crushed it, like, no, we're an action game only, we're not gonna have any sim.
Really?
So that design from 1996 and 97 lived until 2004, and they resurrected most of that design and delivered it for the franchise mode from Tiburon in 95 and 96. That was Jeremy Strouser was one of the guys that did that from 96, and he stayed on Madden until the end.
So eventually Madden, like, they thought, oh yeah, we're just an arcade game essentially, or whatever, action game.
Right, because they were defining we didn't know that much about our customers as we do now. Oh my God, it's so much better now.
Yeah, that's interesting that they just flipped the switch.
Claptrap, what do you got, son?
Another question, why the snub for O.J. Simpson?
Snub? He was fine. OJ was fine, man. It was Bo Jackson. You had another question back there. Oh, and back there too. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, since you're talking a lot about your interactions between testers and how you guys were all doing the same stuff and spying on each other and all that stuff, and how did you even end up with different games? It sounds like you were all working together in some form or another.
How do you end up working on different,
So
How do the games become different?
Each other
Oh,
stuff, and you're looking
That
at
would be
each-
the executive
Like, how do
producers.
did you guys say, okay, fine, you are doing this, we're going to do this, like something like that, or?
you know, when you're on a game, you're not talking to that competitor about what you're doing. You're paying attention to what they're doing, you're looking at what they're doing, you're trying to beat them, you're trying to delight the consumer. But as much as we were a lot of the same people moving from one thing to the next, the focus of delighting the consumer and making the best thing you can, you get very myopic.
Right.
I don't know if that's answering the question, but.
And the producers, the executive producers, very ego-driven, so they made sure that they had what they needed. And yeah, marketing was absolutely buttoned up about everything.
And usually
We kind of did break the rules with the testers.
There'd be a feature or two, I
Cross-pollination.
assume, that you were hanging your hat
Right.
on, right? This is the new feature we're bringing.
We had a question back here.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
just walked up a little bit. I have two, maybe three questions for Rick, and maybe charged or not. I don't know if you want me to ask some like controversial question or not, but.
Oh, we love controversy.
Okay. I think I missed like a little bit of this. I went to the bathroom and stuff. How long did you work with EA? It was,
Oh, I started in 92 and left in 01.
and you're still working with them?
Oh, no. I
Okay.
left in
So you're-
01, yeah. Yeah.
2001.
2001, okay. Then I guess my question is, what is your opinion on the, drive for EA to monopolize the market for the football game, different football games? Because I know back in like the early 2000s, there used to be like a ton
Oh,
of
why we
all
got the
football
NFL
games.
license all tied up and
My
everything?
friends at Visual Concepts put out their game for 1999.
Yeah, it
And
never would
that
have
threatened the
happened.
market big time. So, Sega, I'll let you tell the rest of the story, but the first part of that is that same group that was making NFL 2K,
Yeah.
they were so threatened by Madden that we at Sega decided, okay, let's put this really high quality product out and just tank the industry by lowering the price to $19.99
Yeah.
at the time.
And
I
it
think
wasn't the
was-
industry that was upset. It was these guys called the NFL.
Yeah, so the NFL license was really, really, really angry, and it made it very easy for then EA to go in and lock up that license. So I think the consumer perception was EA was blocking out any competition and locking it up.
And that was
the
not the
reality
case at all.
is that Sega made a really interesting
Right.
business decision that was not well received by the people that own the
And
license.
we were very opportunistic at EA in which we told the NFL, you lost money this year because they went to 1999. We'll make up all that and we'll do a 5-year exclusive deal and make sure you get, we guaranteed the income from Sony and from Sega to NFL to get that.
Okay.
And it was just opportunity at that time,
Yeah.
right? When you do something like that and you're bleeding in the water, the sharks will show up, right? So yeah, it was better for the NFL for sure, because it was starting to get out of control, and they needed real tight grip on their license, and they didn't want to dilute their license, right?
And Blitz was around that time too, which also was painting them in a not popular light. It was shining a light on all the negative things in the NFL. They didn't.
And we found out the only thing the NFL cared about was how much money they're going to make every year.
So it was exclusively because the NFL wanted to choose EA because of their depiction of it?
No, literally, because we walked up with a deal that said, we'll make up all your lost revenue if you guarantee us for 5 years, and we'll give you all that revenue for 5 years right now. We'll write you a check.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think at that time, from a revenue perspective, Madden was like literally 1/6 of the entire video game industry for how much money
It was, yes, kind of big.
Because EA was 1/3 of it, and 1/3 of EA was Madden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we reported. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that.
Looking up the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Madden family was very, very happy with us.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, back in the back. Well,
Yeah, question for Rick. So the N64 was the console of choice for my friends and I in high school. We were waiting a few years for a Madden to appear, and when it finally appeared, it was called Madden 64. And we thought, who on earth named it that? We jokingly referred to it as Madden 1964. So was that your decision?
no, that decision was made by the NFL. Did not give us the license for that product, so we had to make a product without the NFL in it.
Right,
So
right.
that's an interesting story. We did not have that Nintendo license. Howard and Larry were fighting for a while, so we couldn't make any Nintendo games. And 6-7 months into development, they signed a deal. And the marketing guys said, hey, is there any chance you guys can get Madden working? Well, legally, we did not have a dev kit or any code written, but we magically had to build the test in 2 weeks because we had our friends in Florida that used to be Visual Concepts. So yes, we nefariously, I'm not going to say his name, figured out how to port Madden to the N64 because we knew it was coming. So we had that work done in the background, right? Not inside an EA studio. It was not a licensed use of that, but the code was there and it was ported and it was working. So because we didn't have time to go to the NFL and we couldn't just walk up to Nintendo and say, oh, by the way, we already got our code working for 9 months on this, it was not a good idea. It wasn't a good look. So we said, let's just make it non-NFL, release it as just the N64 version. And we stripped back some of the features actually from that code to do it. That's probably litigious what I just said, so don't repeat it outside this room. But yeah, it was 100. Another thing was 100% everyone on our team, we loved it so much. Our bonuses were made on your numbers. So our numbers were 380,000 units. You sold over that, you got a bigger bonus. You sold less than that, you didn't get your bonus. That year, all of our bonuses were bigger than our entire year's salary. Because N64 wasn't on our numbers, and it sold like hotcakes. So, yeah, the market named it N64. Go ahead.
As far as you were talking about the console wars at the time being small teams, but I would imagine because EA had developed a game for different consoles, and then me being a PC gamer, I was thinking, oh great, a version for the PC. It must have made the teams even bigger. And then if you look at, because for whatever reason there was a period of time where the PC was just like, yep, were done with PC and then at some point.
It was actually more simple than that. Every game had to have a P&L that worked. And if you couldn't get 150,000 people to buy your PC game, don't make it. And then your game went. But if you can get 150 on the Sega, you can make, what was that pinball game we made with Aerosmith? But we would love to have made it on the PC, but it wasn't going to sell, so we didn't. And that's what drove those sales. It's like, the addressable market for Madden was 375,000 people. It's 2 billion people now, right? It's a different scale. Go ahead.
So you were talking about having to basically build the game from scratch every year. What about the development back then made it so you couldn't build off of the previous release?
It was the hardware. So Sega is different than a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4. The Matrox card, now I have 3DFX, and now it was the hardware drove everything.
Okay.
And the way you sold games was with visual acuity. If your game could look like, what was the Magic Carpet?
Oh.
Did you remember that game? It just was visually stunning, and that's why it sold, right? Tomb Raider, another one, just visually stunning, and that's why it sold. You could take care of the bad, and it still goes on today in games. Your games do that. Probably Monsters, they take advantage of new visual acuity that makes the game better. So,
Which one?
go ahead.
There was the joke within the industry and by gamers for the longest time of, if you want to play this year's NCAA game, play last year's Madden. So in the PlayStation, it eventually got better where they actually made a really good college football game. But the PlayStation era was where that started. Did you ever work with or partner with them, or was that always?
It was our team. It was the same team.
Oh, it was the same team?
Yeah.
Was it literally last year's Madden?
We spent a lot of money building an engine and debugging it, and then we needed to make more money on it, so they now take that and make it. Of course, it actually was last year's Madden. Of course it was. Because I can get use out of that engine, right? Eventually, it did split off and became its own product. I mean, now at this point, it's
15 years,
my buddy Robert's working on that, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
He's going to bypass Madden in a couple of years.
It's fantastic now, but it wasn't for the very longest time.
I won't tell him. Go ahead.
What game was that again?
NCAA football.
College.
My question is, let me just remember my question. Was there no obfuscation of the underlying hardware at all? Could you not, layer it in some way and do this as too?
Eventually, when DirectX 5 and 6 came out, we could use tools, but I mean, we were writing video drivers for 35 different video cards for every game we wrote, right? And then you look at your budget, and you're like, 60% of our budget is going to writing tech code. It's so we wanted DirectX 10 and DirectX. We wanted a common. That's why consoles were better. It's like everybody has the same config, right? But that made sense. Go ahead in the back.
Did either one of you work on Mutant League Football?
No, I didn't, but I know Rob and Rob Sears and that team really well. Steve, they're just about to re-release. My buddy Tony Barnes made that game, yeah. But again, hey, it was the Madden engine.
Yeah.
How can we leverage monetizing money out of that code, right?
How do you guys determine the player stats? Do you use the NFL Combine mixed with their stats from the previous year?
Well, I didn't hear it say
Said
it.
how you define the player stats.
That's really interesting. In the early days, we literally there was a guy named Frank. He had a sports reporting company out of Chicago, and he did ratings. We'd buy his ratings, and we'd buy Statsing ratings, and we'd get their ratings. But then we had to munge that to work in the engine. So there was literally 2 assistant producers, and that was their whole job, and they made the stats for Madden go, and it was literally 2 humans did that. Now it's a big formulaic thing that matters more. But how do you rate someone on tackling? You got to play the game 3,500 times to know that an 11's better than a 10, right? So those assistant producers that were testers, because that's how you came up in the rank, kind of knew that those data is we got to make Kevin Gogan a 64 because he's so slow, right? But it was a big deal. I mean, Barry Sanders comes in the office and says, "Who's writing my ratings? This is not right." And they cared. So, go ahead.
This one's for Mark. In terms of the testing community and things that has gone on over maybe the last 10 years with, and I don't know how up to date you are, but I keep hearing stuff about the community mods or the, what do they call it, what is it, day one patches when it comes to game releases?
Sure.
Is the game testing as a job skill, is that no longer being paying attention to, and they're just relying on public betas and?
Oh, no. I mean, I do think that using early access could be perceived as, hey, are you spending less on QA as a result of that? For us and my company, no. We have a pretty large QA department. We also have a vendor that we use that scales that QA so that we can do more testing across. There's different flavors of testing. So there's performance testing, which allows us to get a range of how does it perform on different hardware for the PC gamers, ensuring a better experience across a wide range of devices. There's compatibility that also is similar to that, but gives us does it work across all those devices, not just what level of performance do we need to tweak. And then there's the bugs themselves. The day zero patches, why you see that more and more, and we were both at Xbox when Xbox Live was born, and it kind of started that phenomenon of, okay, now nothing is ever just shipped. So before then, when I was a tester and I finished a game, it was done. We called it gold mastering, right? And you'd have a final release, that was it.
Yeah.
It got packaged, it was bought in a retail environment, and there was no way to change that. As soon as we introduced Xbox Live and started introducing auto updates and patches to the industry, you had the idea that games are never really done. And so there's the P&L, the money side that Rick was talking about, right? That dictates everything. We're a business, it's an entertainment business. We need to fund a thing and assume that we're going to get a return on that investment. Okay. So there's a date that we have to ship by, and there's a date that we have to get that thing out the door to start getting our revenue back. There's also a date that we have to submit to certification. Okay. So to give you an idea of I have a game coming out October 28th. Okay. That game has been done in test for a considerable amount of time. Typically 2 months before that ship date, the date you see it as a consumer, okay, we're pencils down, so no one's touching that game anymore. Okay. And now it's going through the certification and testing process to be finalized to get released on that platform. Okay. And so Steam has 2 to 3 weeks of certification for every game submitted on it. Epic Game Store's 5 days. Okay. Consoles can be months. And when we were producers, assume you're going to fail 3 times. So you build a schedule that has...
That's when you get really mad at the testers.
And so the day zero patch is, because of those dates, I got the thing ready to go, and I know I can hit the date I promised you the game's going to be available on. But in between, testers kept testing it, and they found a critical bug. Okay. And they found enough critical bugs that convinced me now as a head of studios, hey, we need to open that thing up and take the risk of breaking everything all over again, because every time you change one thing, you can break it all, and then test it again. Cost me money, cost me time, and then do that update. And the reason we're doing that is not so that, hey, you bought this thing and you have a horrible experience because now you got to wait for updates, and why the hell are these people doing that to you? It's because we want you to have a better experience. We found something broken in that game that was worth us doing the time and money to update that, to test it, and then send that update to you. So it's really, people want to give you the best experience that you're getting those updates, and the business side forcing them to release something sooner. I hope that makes sense.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more. Go ahead.
I had a question about the players themselves. I imagine they, early days, they didn't really play video games themselves, but now every NFL player is going to have played a lot of Madden in their
pretty much every player.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice played in Montana. They all played.
Oh yeah,
in the
so
days,
even the old folks?
Yeah, they were 20-year-old kids. Yeah, they were in a game. They want to see themselves. Right?
Well, I was thinking before, they grew
but
up.
now it's become this badge of honor, and the Madden Day thing, and the whole Madden curse is awesome, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Good.
I
I'm one of the 5 people who bought the Mac OS port in 2000.
Thank you.
I'm curious, how involved were John and Pat with creating the commentary, or was it all scripted for them?
100% scripted. And then, those poor guys, we put them through hell. Welcome to Mississippi. Welcome to Kansas. The poor guys, we'd sit them in the studios.
How long would it take to
but
get
we
all that
would we
done?
would do the script. They would look at it for like 38 seconds and say, let's just kind of, all right, this is fine. But we literally took all those words from TV, so there was nothing new. There wasn't new content that we made. Sometimes Coach would say, who the hell says this? I'm like, you said it in a game, Coach. Okay, I'm not going to say that. Okay. But yeah.
They'd slip some secret stories in every once in a while.
Yeah, they would put some injured. We put in Madden 98. There's a loose pickle in the game because Brett Favre was a friend of Coach's, and Brett Favre and his friends, when they were kids, would get his Uncle Rube, and we have all this on tape. Get his Uncle Rube to show him his male member because it was so big, and they called it the pickle. It's Uncle Rube's pickle. Right? So Coach would, every time he did it, and you go back and listen, every time he did a game with Green Bay and Brett Favre, he would always get the word pickle in the broadcast. So we put loose pickle in there. I think it's still in there sometimes. It's still here. It's a loose pickle. He said, I always try to get Uncle Rube and pickle in the broadcast. Yeah, they were jokesters for sure. So, well, thanks for your time, people. This is amazing.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun going down memory
And Hans,
lane.
thanks for setting it up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and here are a few more videos for you to check out.